Today on In the Woodyard, we got another Woodcast. Tony's back because he likes being here. And today, what are we going to talk about?
Tractors!
It's tractor time. So we're going to talk all about tractors. Here we go.
You got a lot of papers down there.
I have some papers because I was a tractor shopper about, a year and a half ago?
A year and a half ago.
Something like that. And just so you guys all know, that's how Tony and I met.
Yep.
I did a video on shopping for tractors, and I was talking about different brands, and Tony had seen that video, and he stalked me.
I did. I admit I was a stalker.
And got a hold of me and said, hey, I have a tractor you might want to look at. And that's how we met. And so about a year and a half ago, we started talking about doing firewood and stuff. And I'm not going to swap spit with you or anything, but I got to say this. Meeting him was a good thing. Tony's got a lot of good stuff. And people think we've been friends our whole lives, and it seems like it. We could have been. It's too bad we didn't meet sooner, but we have a lot of common interests. A lot of things we agree on. We like food, and we have a good time together all the time. So I'm glad that you're here. So it's going to be good. So today we're going to talk about tractors. So Tony has had tractors in the past.
I have. I'm not a super long user of tractors, but probably the last 8 years or so. Mm-hmm. And I'm still consider myself a newbie, but I have had a couple of different tractors. And when I contacted you, I had done a lot of research on tractors.
And now that I know you, I'm sure you did more than a lot.
Yeah. Well, I have a video out there that I put out in January that goes through all the things we're going to be talking about today.
In more detail.
In more detail, yeah. And I've gotten a lot of people thanking me because when I went on, I couldn't find anything that covered a lot of things or what to ask when you go to a dealer.
Right. There's nobody that talks about what to ask, what to look for, what your options are. And I found most of the dealers I went to weren't much help.
Well, you were telling me the one with the green dealer, I think it was?
One of the green tractor places. Two of them I went to, two different ones.
They wouldn't talk to you.
They wouldn't talk to me. They said, the brochures are over there.
And that holds for all brands.
In this particular case, that was like one of my top ones. It was either going to be a John Deere or it was going to be a Kubota. Those are the two in my mind because they're the top tractor brands. I thought that's what I want. John Deere, I figured, well, it's American and everything, even though all tractors under 73 horsepower, I don't know if people know this, there's 75. All of them, all brands are made overseas. All of them. It's just the big ones that are made here. But you can't tell that to people. They don't believe you. Or Kubota, because I like the Japanese products. I think they do a really good job of making things, and everything good about them I heard. So that's where I started. That was the first. Those two places is where I went.
My choices when I started, I went to the John Deere dealer, the first one, and I got a quote. When I got off the floor after the sticker shock, then I started looking around. But there were reasons where we'll cover why I didn't buy a John Deere. And coming from Illinois, I bled green because that's all we had. That's all we knew about. The farmers that we dealt with, that's all we used was John Deere.
Right.
So I thought that's the only brand.
And they make a great product. They make
almost
a lot
like
of good
steel.
stuff.
It's the only it's one of the only chainsaws out there.
Good point. Touche.
Yeah.
So what to ask is the big thing. And we came up with like 17 things that are like the most important things to consider.
For, yeah.
Right. And there's obviously going to be others, and some of you are going to say, oh no, you missed this, you missed that. Yeah, we know we're going to miss a few things, but we're going to cover the basics and then the things that matter to us and what we were looking for. And that's the true for all of you too. What other people have doesn't matter.
Correct.
If they're not doing what you're doing with your tractor.
And everyone has their own needs. The reason I bought a tractor and what I need out of a tractor is totally different than yours.
Right. Some guys may have a lot of property and all they're going to do is mow lawn with an attachment, maybe do some brush hogging, maybe do some food plots, and that might be all they do. Then there's going to be other guys that it's going to be all for gardening and food plots, and they're not interested in any kind of mower attachments and all that kind of stuff. Then there may be guys that all they're going to do is pull logs out of the woods, or maybe there's going to be guys that are, whatever it is they're going to do, dig a pond, they're going to, just for playing on, whatever it is. But you have to think about what you're going to use the tractor for today.
Correct.
And years from now.
That's the key that we wanted to point. Don't only think about something right now. Don't only think about getting a small tractor right now,
it's good enough.
You'll find out you outgrow it quickly.
Like one of my brothers, both of them actually.
Both of them,
especially my brother Eric. He's got a small, is it a TMY, TYM?
TYM.
And it's just too small. He needs to get a bigger tractor. And I think I've got him convinced that he needs a bigger one. So he's at the point where he's thinking he's going to get a bigger one. But that's a whole other topic.
Well, similar to the podcast we did on chainsaws, you brought up the point before of buy where you're going to get it serviced, right?
Right, that's huge. The brand isn't really as important as service because
Correct.
you will need service. A tractor is not a car.
Well, we both learned, for me to take my tractor, which is, my dealer is 17 miles away, which is not that far, but for him to come pick up my tractor is $259.
That's just
one
to get it.
way.
And then to bring it back?
And then another two. And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was the price. I'm sure fuel cost. So that went up. So
if you need a major service, you're talking $1,000.
Well, no matter what happens, if you don't have a buddy who has a trailer or something to move your tractor, you're stuck with having them come and get it, and it's costly.
Right. And if you're like me and you're not a mechanic and don't want to be a mechanic, you either have to know someone that can help you or have someone that has a trailer so you can get it serviced. I mean, yeah, I can check the oil and I can change the oil. I mean, there's a few little things I can do, but that's not why I bought a tractor. I bought a tractor to do work that I want to do, not work on the tractor. I don't want to work for the tractor. I want tractor to do the work. So one thing we should back up before we get going on all the things to look for is, why a tractor in the first place? Why not a skid steer?
That's a very good question, and that argument we can have for a long time because there's two different thought patterns on this particular subject. But
skid steers are awesome. Number one reason I didn't get a skid steer, I had no experience on them. I never had driven one. I've driven
you didn't have tractors.
You know, as a kid, we had tractors. I knew how to drive a tractor. I knew the basics of a tractor, but never bought one. I mean, I used my dad's tractor, and I've driven a couple other ones, just little things here and there, but nothing where I knew I was going to work with it. So the big thing for me was the cost, because there's a big, decent skid steer. They don't give them away. No. They don't give away tractors either, for that matter, but they are less than a skid steer. And I knew what I was going to be doing with it. When I bought it, I knew I was going to be doing plowing. I knew I was going to be doing lifting of logs. I was going to hopefully someday be working in the woods, where I'm going to be driving through woods and pulling logs out and maybe digging stuff. I mean, all the things that I wanted to do, I just was leaning more towards tractor right away.
Me too. I went through the same analogy. I did the research. I talked to numerous people who had both or one or the other, and there were compelling arguments for both of them. What I found mostly is, if you're moving material or taking material out, the skid steer is without a doubt the way to go.
Tighter turning radius, quicker.
Exactly. Shorter turning radius.
Lots of power.
Yep. That's exactly it.
But when it comes to rear attachments, then
well, now that's it. Yeah, they have a lot of attachments, but they're more expensive on a skid steer, and you can't borrow that from a lot of people. You know, that's the only thing. Whereas you and I can exchange 3-point attachments and stuff like that, as long as our fittings are the same. Because there are two different agricultural hydraulic fittings or skid steer type flat face, as they call them. So,
but after seeing Bert running his skid steer and his dad Keith, how good they are on it, I mean, they're fantastic, and they can do a lot of stuff with it that I can't do in the tractor. The fact they can pivot in place, and it's amazing what you can do with a skid steer. How handy they are.
So maybe we should get one of each.
That would be nice. That would be nice. But they have their place, and for me it was tractor. It's just what I wanted to get, and because my brothers had tractors, my dad had a tractor. And
so you wouldn't have a problem if someone sponsored you and gave you a skid steer?
I'd probably use the skid steer off a lot. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, because there's so many of those out there.
Of course.
So yeah, tractor was the way to go for me. And again, the big thing was price. And then the next thing, number one on our list here is service. Where can you take it to get the work done? You don't want to have to go too far. Regrettably, where I bought mine is where you bought yours. We bought it in Wapaka, which for me here, it's 40 miles away. So it's a little hike, but you got to load it up regardless.
No matter matter what you do.
No matter what you do, you're going to load it up. Although I was seriously consider getting a Branson, and it's 2 miles from here.
Oh.
I could have driven it there and back easily. So there's that. And I was real close to getting a Branson because the things that mattered to me the most for my tractor was cost and lift capacity. And those two tractors, the Coyote and the Branson, were fantastic, more so than any of the other brands I looked at.
Yeah, and that's amazing. When I did my statistics or research on this to find out that some of the major brands did not have the best capacities.
And it wasn't even close.
No,
I mean,
it was like way off.
Yeah, like I don't know the exact numbers, but say my tractor lifts 2,400,
right,
to full height. A comparable size tractor that was grass colored,
probably 18
I think it was less. It was less like 16. Yeah, it was a lot less. And you put an attachment on there.
Once again, we won't cover that, but you put an attachment on and you even lose that much more capacity.
Yeah, so there's lots to consider. We're going to cover a lot of the things that we didn't know when we were shopping, what to even ask. But now that I know what I know, now I would know what to ask. I would know what to look for. I would try things out more. When I first went, I was like, it was all Greek to me. I had never used a loader before. I mean, I drove a tractor with a rake on the back. I drove a tractor to pull a trailer and stuff like that, and through the woods to pull a log, but never really used attachments at all. So for me, it was all new. So I didn't know what to ask, but now I do.
Well, why don't we start from the bottom up?
Okay, so
tires. You go in there and you ask the guy and they'll try to sell you something. So whatever their manufacturer is giving them. When I bought my tractor, it was during COVID. They weren't shipping anything. So when I spec'd out I actually ordered my tractor. It wasn't off the lot. I ordered it and he says, it's going to take several months to get this. About 2 weeks later, he calls me up. He says, I got an unexpected order of tractors. Do you want one? I said, absolutely. I thought he had everything. I walk inside there and he says, well, I got your thing, but I couldn't get the tires that you wanted. I wanted industrial tires. He says, no, the only thing that Coyote was shipping out was R14, the new R14 tires. Very little was out there on the R14.
And of course you panicked, like, that's not what I want.
Exactly, and I told him, nope, I don't.
What the heck you got going on
here? Oh my God. It's my investment counselor. Oh, let me shut it down.
Did you just make another million? 2 million.
So they told me either take it or leave it. And I'm like, oh. And several of the people there, the driver who delivered it to me and several of the salespeople said, these R14 are great. For me, it was on snow. I wanted a good tire on snow, something that didn't tear. Well, let me back up too. There are 4 different types of tires you can get. A turf tire, great for grass. A agricultural tire, which tears up the lawn, but is awesome, has great traction, great in the snow. You have your R4, which is the industrial tire. That's the one I wanted, and that's the one you have. Right. And then the R14. And I will tell you, I fell in love after 2 seasons in the snow with the R14. I use no chains, and I'm going up a hill, no issues whatsoever. I'm very impressed. All the reviews that are out there, I believe them. It's a real good tire. I'm not saying that that's the one you should get. I'm just saying that works for me.
But if you're in a southern part of the United States or in a country that are in warm climate where you don't have to worry about ice or snow, turf tires
but here's the thing.
Work.
Here's the thing. The R14 is the best of industrial and turf both together.
Right.
So it doesn't tear up my lawn as much.
Right.
But it's as long as you're not using it in 4-wheel drive a lot of times, you're going to tear it up. So
so
that's it. And you'll learn, first-time owners, that if you're using it in 4-wheel drive all the time and leave it in 4-wheel drive, you're going to be tearing up your lawns.
Yeah, and when you're turning on hard surface, it doesn't want to go.
Well, not only that, you tear up the tires too. When you're driving on asphalt or concrete, it tears them up. It wears them out more.
So another thing to consider, and this was huge for me and for Tony also, is that we wanted to have as much weight in the rear as possible, and loading your tires with fluid is the way to do it. I have like 1,000 pounds on my back
Each
end.
one is a little bit different, and it all depends on your tire size, but they fill it up with probably anywhere from 300 to 600. There's beet juice or windshield wipers.
And there's a corn-based one now.
And a corn-based, yeah. So there's several options.
And what it is they actually pump it into the tire, for those of you who don't know, and it's probably, more than 3/4 of the tire is full?
I don't think it's 3/4. It's probably about half.
Oh, really?
Or so.
So I thought it was like 3/4.
Each tire has specific, what the guy told me, each tire is specific with how many gallons they put in.
And you pay for it. It's not free. It's just hundreds of dollars. I don't remember.
And the weird thing is, I told Chris, I got mine done by an independent tire dealer, and I had gotten a quote from my dealer, and it was hundreds less. And Chris went in and he said, no, my dealer, it was whatever, $500 or something like that.
I can't remember.
Mine was $198 or $200. And now our tires aren't that much different, even though we have a different frame size on ours. But that's something else to look out to. You definitely want to get your tires filled. That will help you with ballast that you may or may not have right off the bat. But filling the tires is extremely important.
Yeah, because you got to keep the tractor in contact with the ground, and having a light rear end is not good when you're trying to lift in the front.
That's what my wife tells me I have.
Yeah, it'll increase your stability. It is better for the frame to balance everything out, so you're not stressing the front and all the things that you don't know about when you're shopping.
It actually helps lowers the gravity too, they said, so that stabilizes. So okay.
Yeah, that's a big thing. The next thing on the list is third function.
You know, you may or may not think you will need it, but I will tell you, after having it installed on an older tractor and having it ordered from the factory, huge difference. Now, there's a difference between a 3-function and a diverter valve, so that's something else to think about. Some of the dealers will sell you a diverter valve as opposed to a third function, and there's a huge difference.
It's cheaper.
It is cheaper, and you have to do 2 steps with a diverter, whereas with a third function you only do 1 or 2 steps. And what I mean by that is everything is in your joystick. So you have your joystick, you have your it's typically a 2-finger.
Yeah, it's in and out.
Yeah, it's a toggle, and that will either, like if you have a plow, move your plow left or right, or if you have a grapple, it'll open it or close it. Now, I got away with it on my old tractor by cheating. I had a New Holland 34 horse 1925, and it had rear remotes. And instead of buying a diverter valve or a third function, I just plumbed. I went to our farm and ranch store. They sell ready-made hoses. I ran it from the back of the tractor up to the front with zip ties and put agricultural fittings on it, and that worked fantastic for the time I had it. But I had 2 functions. I had to first lift or lower my bucket or my loader arm, and then I had to reach behind and push the hydraulic up or down to open or close my grapple. It works. It works, but not as good as a third function.
Right.
And in my opinion, spend the money and get the third function.
Yeah, for me it was like $1,000, maybe a little more. I knew I was going to be using a grapple all the time. That's one of the main reasons I bought the tractor. And down the road, I know it's going to help sell the tractor if I ever do sell it.
That's
having that's just a bonus.
Now that's correct. Everyone, you recoup those dollars.
Right. And I use it all the time. It's one of those things that you just got to have, I think. So the next thing is cold country.
That's us up north, not you folks down south, but anything north of the Mason-Dixon, is it?
I don't know.
Anyways, one of those.
I consider anything south from Illinois Illinois, that's south.
Right, that's south.
Northern
correct.
Illinois and south is south.
So we need a block heater, and that is a device that you plug in at night, and it's basically a coil that heats your block, and it's easier to start in the mornings or when you're going to use it.
And it does make a big difference.
Yeah, and you should know.
I kept my tractor outside, and there were times I didn't plug it in. I couldn't get it started. It was just too cold. When it's 20, 25 below zero, and your tractor's in the shade, and it's windy, it's.
I'm fortunate. I keep it in the pole barn, and I don't have to worry. But I still got that, and it's cheap. It's under $100. It's like
it's worth
$50, and it's just a freeze plug that they pop out and put this in.
So next thing, what do we talk about? You got PTO.
PTO horsepower. Oh yeah, this is where a lot of times people are confused. You say you have a 34. Let's just say you have a 34 horsepower tractor, but you want to get an accessory for your 3-point in the back, like let's say a chipper, and the manufacturer says you need a PTO horsepower of 25 horsepower or whatever. And this more or less deals with the smaller tractors than the larger ones. But tractor horsepower and PTO horsepower, or 3-point PTO, are two different horsepowers. You can check it on you can check your spec sheets on your tractor, and they're two different numbers. Just because you have a 34 horsepower doesn't mean you have 34 horsepower at the PTO. So just keep that in mind.
You're gonna lose like 20%, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's something to consider.
So here's the next one, is something that both of us, the reason why we switched our tractors or bought the tractors that we did. And that is
lift capacity.
Yep,
it's huge. Like I said, my two choices were Coyote and Branson, just because they had the capacity for lift at a price point, at a tractor size, frame size wise, that was way ahead of everybody else, and it wasn't even close.
And for me, I'm using IBC totes to move my wood, and with my New Holland tractor, I had maybe 1,000 lift capacity on it, maybe 1,100, but then I had to put pallet forks on it, so that made it 800. So I could only fill them up maybe 3/4 of the way, and make sure I have a lot of ballast, a lot of weight in the caboose. And but yeah, lift capacity was extremely important, and I wish I would have gotten your frame size of tractor. But there's a lot of reasons too. When you go, whatever you choose, there's an action for everything you do. If you get one frame size of a tractor, you got to make sure your trailer will accept that. So that's something else to think about. If you do have a trailer, is it wide enough on it? The wheelbase, is it long enough? We both thought initially, oh, we've got dump trailers. We're just going to roll that right up on the dump trailer, and no problem. And we'll take the bucket and put it in the front. Well, you're going to get a ticket there. So it did not work. So you have to take that into consideration, the length and the width of your
And then as
tractor.
you go bigger, you're going to pay more. All your attachments are going to be more because they're going to be bigger. You're going to use more fuel. So it's everything affects
everything. Affects everything.
But as a rule of thumb, with a tractor, a little bit bigger than what you think you need is going to be better.
That doesn't hurt. One of the things about my tractor versus your tractor is, for me, it was important. The 6 acres that I have to turn around in the woods. The turning capacity was greater and tighter than yours. So
should have got a skid steer.
Well, sure.
There's going to be a guy saying that.
Of course.
But yeah, lift capacity was huge. I think with mine I can lift like 2,300. But one of the things we mentioned before we were discussing is that a lot of people don't realize that's 2,300 or 2,400, whatever mine is. That's without an attachment.
That's correct.
You add an attachment.
People forget about that.
Yeah. You had a big heavy bucket out there that's 400 or 500 pounds. Well, you take that off the top. If you put a grapple out there that's a heavy duty, really big one, take that off. Or like your grapple that you got, that American one. Is it American?
The Frostbite?
No, not.
Oh no, that one is everything attachments.
Everything attachments. That's a lightweight one.
That's the reason I had bought it, and that was it. It was the lightest attachment out at 230 pounds, so I wasn't
versus a lot of other grapples are 500.
Correct.
So
well,
it's a big difference.
Here's the big story, and I get this from people. I got a super deal on these pallet forks. They're heavy duty. Well, how much did they weigh? 550 pounds. Well, what's your lift capacity on your tractor?
700.
Yeah, exactly. So there's something else to think about, but that's a separate one we're going to be doing on attachments.
Yeah,
so
that's we could go for days on.
Yeah.
So lift capacity for us was huge. Next.
Dashboard.
What the heck is a dashboard?
Well, that's the thing in the front there. The one thing that I liked about ours, and I'm not selling the Coyote tractor, but a lot of times you look at different things on a tractor and you like certain things. One of the things I liked about the dashboard is the majority of it is analog, so you can actually see it. It's not digital.
It lights up nice.
It does light up nice, but the nice thing about it is when it's sunny out, I can look and see what the RPM. I'm not looking at a digital display that's showing
that
me.
the sun is hitting and is washing it out.
Right.
And then the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, over time, those things start to fade.
Yes.
You
Yes,
start
they
to
do.
lose the vibrancy. The new ones are probably better than some of the old ones, but I like the analog.
I can't argue with you, and you brought that point up when you were looking at it, and you said, "Man, I'm glad that they do this." So,
and not to say that it's like you say, it's not a perfect tractor. There's things about my tractor that I wish I could change. You're never going to find a perfect tractor. You're not going to. There's always going to be a couple little things you wish you had. There's things I have you don't have. There's things you have I don't have. You have the same tractor, just a little difference in size.
But it's like vehicles. You wish you had some accessory from the Ford, Toyota, Dodge, Chevy. If they could put in a perfect vehicle, nobody would ever buy anything else.
It would be made just for you and you alone. And it would cost 10 times as much.
That's it.
They should do that for me.
They might.
I don't. Okay, next is the joystick.
Oh, the thing you like the most. The joystick.
Well, there's the thing is that I wanted my stick to be right next to me like yours is.
Yeah.
Mine is up front. I didn't get a choice because when I went to buy my tractor, I had decided on a model up from what I got. That's the one I was going to get 2 hours before I got there.
It was COVID and same issue.
Couldn't get them. It was like months to get them, and I needed to get a tractor. And they sold it 2 hours before I got there, the one I wanted. But I am very happy with what I've got. It's mounted up front, and it works just fine.
Not looking or not saying anything about some brands, but I see some people like this.
Yeah.
And these long bars and everything else, and it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like having everything right here, and with some of the tractors, they have armrests, which is very convenient, so you never move, and you're never fatiguing your hand.
Right.
And personal choice, and that's one of the, you'll get used to anything.
I'm used to mine, but if I was to buy another tractor, I want it to be down here next to me. I don't want it out there. The other big reasons why I want it next to me, it opens up that space because I jump on and off both sides of my tractor.
You're not
even though
supposed
I'm
to.
not
You know
supposed to. I know, but I'm not. Yeah, that's just me.
Oh.
But that thing sticks out, so I've got a real narrow area to jump out. And obviously, if you bump it, you can lose your load up front, stuff like that. All kinds of bad things can happen, I know, but I do it. And yours, it's open, so it's much spacier. Is that a word, spacier?
Yeah, sure it is. We just made it.
More open space so you can get in and out easier, so I like that.
Yeah. No, that is, the joystick is a very personal item, and I don't mean that.
No, next.
Okay.
It's always something.
All right.
With this guy. What do we got here?
All right. Seat options.
Yes, this is big. I love my seat.
Yep.
But there's one thing I would like to change.
And what is that?
I wish I could fold it down or fold it up.
Amen.
So that I could keep the rain from getting it or keep the sun from beating on it because my seat doesn't move. But it's extremely comfortable. It's got a nice float to it.
Yep.
It's padded nice. The backrest is great.
There's so much adjustment.
I can adjust it all kinds of different ways. I love the seat. I just wish I could fold it. But then again, it probably wouldn't be as nice. It would be a cheaper seat probably.
It would.
So the option is maybe get a cover for it. So.
Yeah. Now, speaking about that, as far as covers, it's ironic. You can go look. Our our brand, they don't seem to exist there. But you look at a Kubota, you can get a seat cover for your seat, which is great. I wish I could have that. It really saves, because I'm rough on seats. And sometimes you have something in your back pocket and you can puncture it. But a couple of things about the seat I wanted to mention, as Chris pointed out. There are so many adjustments: forward, reverse, hydraulically kind of springiness to it. But here's something that when you go to a tractor, regardless of which, ask them about armrests. Firstly, they're extra on most manufacturers, armrests, and most of the time you get one. So think about that too. And let me tell you, it's like a recliner. It's extremely comfortable when you have two armrests right there. It is just really nice.
And if you're putting a lot of time in on the tractor, if you are putting food plots in, you are doing a lot of mowing, comfort is nice.
Oh, that is so nice.
If you're doing hour after hour after hour, I'm not so much. I'm on and off mine constantly.
Same here.
So yeah, that's
one other thing. Most of them now have retractable seat belts. So that's something else. Most people don't use them, but when you're doing work on a hill or vertical, it's a nice thing to strap on. Wait. It's a nice thing to put it on.
I know you like your strap-ons. Number 10.
Oh, God.
3-point.
Okay, 3-point. All right, 3-point. The difference between our tractors here is I love what he has on his tractor, and they do make that same device, and I'll tell you it in a minute. If I bought mine with an enclosed cab, they have a handle on it that's right next to the 3-point in the back that I can move up or down my 3-point. Right now I have to reach around in the front and take my 3-point and go up and down, whereas your tractor, you have that, and I told you you're going to love that feature.
I do. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Because you can be right in the back and you can raise and lower your 3-point.
And where it makes a huge difference is your micro adjustments. If you have your attachments in a field and it's not level, that makes a huge difference in putting your accessories or your attachments on.
Mm-hmm. I use it a lot of times because I have a trailer full of wood and I need to lower it so that we can drive ahead or hook it up. Just all the little things. But it's nice having it to not have to reach around. So.
Oh, it is. I wish that they made that. I would have paid extra if they offered it to get that.
Right. Well, you would have had to buy a bigger tractor.
Well, no, not a bigger tractor, just a cab.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. We'll talk about that coming up too.
Oh, here is a good.
This is the big one here.
This is the big one.
This is a big one for you Kubota lovers.
Go ahead.
Treadle pedal.
2-pedal versus treadle pedal. Now, I've owned both, and to me, I can go either. I can go either way.
I bet you can.
Yeah, sure.
So when I went to look at the Kubotas, which is what I wanted originally after getting rejected at the John Deere dealership, I had boots on because I knew I was going to be wearing boots. And they weren't huge boots, but they were boots. And right away I was like, what? It just, oh. And then I talked to a guy that has a Kubota, and I was asking him how he likes it. He says, oh, you get used to it because he said, I don't use the pedal like you're supposed to. He said, I hook my toe underneath. So he's,
oh, God.
He's using it. He either goes to the back and flips his toe up, or he uses his toe. So he's actually using the back of the treadle pedal.
Oh, God.
And he said it works better that way.
You know, I liked it. I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever. But, you know, some people just hate. And some people don't like a 2-pedal system. I
got used to my 2-pedal system because I've had 2 bigger John Deere riding lawnmowers, and there's 2 pedals. There's forward and reverse. I just got used to it, and I don't know. It's pretty simple.
Well, while we're right there and low, let's talk about 2 things.
That's it.
1, mats. Now that may not seem like anything, but most of them have a steel floor, and that's all you get, nothing. If you get an upgrade, it's a mat. Now let's talk about humping. Now what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the hump in the middle.
Right.
on my tractor, I have about a 2-inch hump right there. And though it may not seem like much, you keep hitting it every time you get in and off. Yours, it's almost like a dance floor. It's all flat, really nice.
Yeah, I do classical, ballroom dancing every day.
But I would have had to go into the next level.
Right.
So that's something else to look at, is look at the floor and see if it does come with a floor mat. And I'll tell you, the floor mat is really nice for cleanup, especially the mud.
Grip for when you're on there. When it is wet, slippery, raining, snowy, muddy, whatever, it works really good. Now my brother, Eric, has a small tractor, a red one. He has no foot space whatsoever. You can't even move your feet. They're there that you've got nothing because it's a small tractor. And I think I've got him talked into getting a bigger one.
Well, that's a good thing. And like you pointed out, in a video, I show a boot right next to the treadle pedal or the forward and reverse pedal. There's plenty of room in there. Even if you want to rest, if you're doing a bush hog and you've got it on cruise control, you can just rest your foot right there. Otherwise, you got to contort your foot one way or the other.
Right, yeah. So try them out. If you're not sure what you like, try to find someone who's got one, ask them what he thinks of it, or she, whoever has tractors, look at them. Same for any of this stuff. Try to take your time.
Find out what's most important for you, and you can live with some of these or not, if it's a deal breaker.
There's going to be compromises.
Yes.
There's going to be. You're not going to get everything you want because, well, there's a lot of reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, fuel tank.
Actually, we did the floor mats. We're transmissions.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. That's what I said. I said hydro.
You did see, So we've got 2 types of transmissions.
Yeah.
The easiest one, without a doubt, for a first-time user is the hydrostatic.
Yep.
Push forward, goes fast.
And there's people that are long-time tractor owners that do more field work are going to want a shuttle shift or a total manual.
It seems like farmers want to be able to have more control, and that could be for...
Well, and they want to lock in that particular gear and leave it in that gear when they're plowing, when they're disking, when they're whatever it is they're doing, and they get used to it. And yes, you do lose some power with the hydrostatic.
No doubt.
So,
but it's a lot easier to use, without a doubt. I wouldn't own another tractor.
If you're just driving straight ahead all the time, but if you're back and forth and around like I am in my wood yard moving stuff, hydrostatic. It's way fast.
Yep.
It's way fast.
No doubt.
Can we now talk about fuel tanks?
Now we'll talk about fuel tanks.
Finally. So when it comes to fuel tanks, there's a lot of different places they put them on, different models, and for different brands too. My brother Ken has a John Deere. His fuel tank is up on top, so every time he pours fuel in and then onto the hood,
he's giving it a bath.
He's got to lift it up and then, it's not a good place for a fuel tank.
Well, that's the way they did it on most of the older ones.
Oh, I know.
They were all right on the top of the hood.
Yeah, my dad's tractor is right up in front.
My New Holland, it was right up in front too.
Yep. And then yours is where?
Well, mine was a little bit better, but still not ideal. It's all the way in the back, but it's still as high as the front hood. It's still as high.
So I filling with jugs, you got.
Well, the nice thing about it is you learn. You take your 3-point, lift it all the way up, and then set the 5-gallon tank on top. And I use the battery-operated fuel device and just fill that up. So, and yours is the one I wanted, the location, and that is right underneath the left foot.
Yeah, where you step up onto the tractor, it's just in front of that. So it's like a little bit above knee height. It's in a good spot.
But good and bad there too, because you're more susceptible to getting something punctured than I am.
And if you're stupid and you forget to put the cap on, you can kick the cap and it can go into the dirt, or you can drop dirt.
Well,
now, I've never done it yet.
You should watch one of my videos that I have where we put a tether on the gas cap so you don't lose that.
Well, I haven't yet, but I mean,
I have. That's why I did
it's
that.
in a spot where you're stepping over, so
I know.
And you're not supposed to step there, and it's an easy place to put your foot, 2-step.
Yeah. So. But no, you're right. Losing the fuel cap, huge thing. That's how come a lot of times hook it up with
put something. Find a spot.
So what's next on next page?
Okay, next page.
Oh, we did that fuel tank location. So
Look at that.
I put it twice. How do you like that?
You must be Polish.
I am.
So
I'm proud of it.
The next one is the auxiliary
hydraulic rear ports.
Yes. How many?
Well, it all depends.
I know.
Most tractors, or depending, don't come with any. Mm-hmm. So that's an option. Now, if you have to think, are you going to use anything that needs hydraulic assistance? If you have a backhoe,
tiller.
If you have a tiller, if you have a snow blower that has a chute, are you using a rear link, a hydraulic link to lift your 3-point up? There's a lot of reasons. Mine came with 2 as standard. Yours came with 1 set, right? Or no?
I know I've got 1. I think I have 2.
Nope, you don't.
Okay, I have 1.
You have 1.
1 set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because mine was 2.
Okay, well.
That's the only thing I had more than yours.
Now, the difference between our tractors is not a lot.
No. Your frame size.
I've got the next frame size up, which isn't really that much bigger. You've got more deluxe features than
That's because of the model. The CKSE model has everything. There's very few things that it does not have on it.
And every tractor brand is going to be different.
And you can go a la carte on a lot of these things too. You don't need a lot of these things that we can talk about. So
the other thing that you have on yours that's better than mine is I have on the 3-point, I have the traditional turnbuckle.
And that's
which you got to keep them lubricated so they don't rust up. But
definitely invest $200 to $300 more, or it could be $300 to $400 more for a deluxe swing arm 3-point attachment.
It gives you.
It will save you a lot of aggravation and a lot of cursing. I will tell you that.
Because you got to have everything lined up just right, or you got to adjust a lot more.
Right. And with this thing, it's super
easy. Your arms have much more play, and you can move them all. Yeah, it definitely is better.
So deluxe swing arm. Just remember that.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, what color should a tractor be?
They only make them in orange, I think.
Orange is the new green, they say.
Orange is the new green.
No, it doesn't matter.
It does not matter. Any tractor.
I always wanted to get a red tractor.
Why?
I just thought tractors should be red.
Really?
Yeah. I just thought red was the color.
You told me pink.
No, nobody makes a pink one. They make red ones, though. That was, and then I started looking, and I thought green. Then I thought orange. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever's best for you, whatever's best in your area for what your purposes are going to be. And service, again, is huge. We talked about that, making sure you can get to where you got to be and service it. If someone you know is a friend of yours or a neighbor, someone close by, has a particular brand, try their tractor out.
Look at all of them.
Try their tractor out. And the other reason you might want to go with a tractor that is a brand that a neighbor has, he's going to know a lot about it.
Yeah.
And that person probably can help you out a lot.
What if he has a bad tractor, though?
Well, there you go.
A couple other quick items that we don't have on our list, and that is 3-point options. And I'll give you some for instances. My 3-point and your 3-point are electric over hydraulic. The one that I have has 2 options. It has an automatic or it has a manual. And what that means is if you do a lot of brush hog or work where you have to raise your 3-point, if you're doing work like that, you have to raise your 3-point, throttle it down or leave the throttle up, but then shut the PTO off. Make your turn and then turn it back on and lower it. With the automatic, like I have, you set it to automatic. As soon as you lift that off, it shuts the PTO off. It's just a very convenient item to have if you do a lot of that type of work. If you don't, it doesn't mean a thing, you know.
Yep. What would you change about your tractor?
I'd probably go up to the next series so I have more lifting capacity.
Same for me.
And I really like the feature that I said this on this. Some of the stuff that came with my tractor, I don't use it now. One of the things that they call is called link pedal. It's an option, and it's great if you do gravel or dirt work. And let me explain what it is. When you want to go faster on a tractor, you don't only push the accelerator pedal down, you have to take the throttle and move it. So there's two steps: pushing your foot down and putting the throttle up. With the link pedal, when you put that on, it automatically links the pedal to the throttle. So the harder you press on the pedal, the faster you go, the higher the RPMs go. It's a really nice feature.
And that, if I remember right, it was like $500.
Yeah,
something like that.
A lot of these things you can order as aftermarket, or you can put it on later. But you might, once again, we don't know what your needs are. These are the things to think about. Get your checklist and say, I'm doing food plots, I'm going to be digging a pond, stuff like that. Just know what your needs are. Then you can pick the accessories that are important to you.
A tractor will change your life.
It will.
There's so much stuff you can do.
I kept telling you about tractor. I don't need it.
I want it.
How many years had you not had a tractor, and then when you got it, it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what's your favorite thing about your tractor? What do you like doing most with it?
The lifting capacity, without a doubt.
Yeah,
I did that, and grapple.
The grapple, the grapple's my favorite.
It's fun.
Yeah,
it's
like being the strongest man on the planet.
That's exactly. It is so true.
And now that I'm getting better with it, not perfect, it gets more fun as you get better with it.
Especially when you can go.
I know if I have to do this, or if I have to do from above, or if I have to shove in a little bit more, or if I can just grab it just one piece and pull out. I'm getting to that point now where it's getting like, I'm getting pretty good and cocky.
Yeah, yep.
And then you start grabbing too much and dropping pieces.
And they're all over, yeah.
But it is fun. It is a lot of fun. That's my favorite thing. The things that I don't like about my tractor is about 2 months after I bought it, a rear tail light went out, and it's still out. But I don't drive on the road, so I really don't care. People tell me in the comments out there, hey, you got a tail light out. I know. Another thing is when I go to full height with my bucket or my grapple, I go all the way back and I curl it back at the same time, which I rarely do. My bottom 3-point hookup in the front, the bottom one will pull out. It's happened 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, the cord's just the hose is just a little too short. I've pulled it out 3 different times now, and I know not to go because now I know that it's there. Because the first time it happened, I had no function. It's like, why had no function? What happened?
You're lucky that it didn't.
Well, no kidding. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it must just be a weak. I don't know that it's too short. I think it's a weak connector is what it is. It just pulls out. But it's only when I get it really cranked back. It's happened 3 times.
You know what? Don't crank it back.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay. But that's one of the things I would fix. One other thing that happened is the battery placement. My battery is way up front,
right,
and it's down low, and I have rammed into enough piles of wood now that battery compartment now, instead of being here, is here, and it has a slight bend to it. And my first battery I couldn't figure out why my battery was dying. Well, I had a cracked battery.
Oh God!
Because I actually smashed it, and it took me and Bert and Adam probably an hour and a half to pound it back to get the old battery. We had to pry out the old battery and just rip it out, and we had to pry it in pieces to get it out and wash it all out. And I got a new battery now. So
well, I told you, you're pretty rough on your equipment.
Yep. Well, I learned. Don't ram into a pile because it's slightly lower than the frame protector there, whatever is there. It's like that much. It's just enough. So there should be some type of a cast piece that protects the battery.
That's the one thing that they have aftermarket. These fabricators
well, there's tons of stuff you can do.
Grill guards, you know, that's the other thing that I wish I had better than what I have.
Right.
The other thing with regards to that, with regards to the tractor, and this is all tractors, I don't care what, hookups for transportation. There are very few hookups. Mm-hmm. You have to improvise, or you have to use axle straps, just like the video that we did showing people. They should come on just like they do on a skid steer or an excavator. There's actual locations.
Right. Well, even a truck, you got hooks in the front. Yeah, a lot of vehicles. But again, I'd imagine the cost is an issue there too. I'm sure you could do anything. You can put anything on. And attachments, that's hours of talking.
Exactly.
Hours of talking. What to look for, what not to look, what not to buy, what to buy, costs, shipping. I mean, just everything. There's just tons of stuff.
Well, I will say there is another thing that is my pet peeve, and this is on all tractors, not just ours. no storage of any kind.
Oh, that's the other thing I would change in my tractor. Behind my seat, there's a toolbox. I am not kidding you. It's maybe 5 inches deep, 5 inches high, and about that long. I think I can get 2 wrenches in it. And that's
maybe.
Maybe. It's ridiculous.
Mine is the same thing, but they sell that as an option.
I know, it's ridiculous.
And it is ridiculous. But once again, nothing. You want to carry anything, you can't.
Got to put some type of an attachment on, which again is a whole other thing to talk about. The other thing for those of you that don't have a tractor, haven't used one with a loader bucket in front, the other issue that comes up is if you're doing anything early in the morning, especially late in the day, your bucket is right in front of your lights. So you have your lights are basically blinding you. It shines back from the bucket towards you. So accessory type lights are important. I haven't even put them on yet, but it's something I want to do because if you've got a loader bucket, you're going to have an issue with your lights. It's just they're not, and they want to keep them contained. The other thing is on my ropes.
My God, you got a lot of problems, don't you?
Well, it's just all little things.
Oh, okay.
The ropes. ROPS, the protection, rollover protection.
Rollover protection.
Well, my lights are hooked onto the outside of those, so they stick out. That should be on the inside because they're on the outside. It's so easy to bump them. Again, maybe a month after I owned it, I bumped it, doing something, and I snapped it. It's still hooked on, but it's just kind of hanging there.
Well, once again, one thing that I did cover was you do know that you can take those lights off your ROPS, and there's a hole in your fender that you can put them in. Is that an ideal place too? I don't know.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do.
You can talk to everyone and get multiple different. People hate them. The one thing we didn't talk about too is mirrors.
Right.
To me, I wouldn't own a tractor without a mirror.
I want to get a mirror put on because my left side I'm fine. I can turn back to my left, but my right I've got something wrong with it. I don't know if it's a disc problem, but I can only turn so far and it's painful.
See?
So I'm
not the only one.
I'm becoming an old person.
What do you mean becoming?
I know, my kids. You've been old for a long time.
Yes.
And I have been. Anything else we want to talk about with tractors?
I think we've covered them. I'm just trying to think of.
The only thing that I can mention that is a shock if you've never had a tractor is what your maintenance costs are going to be.
Oh, definitely.
It's not like getting your oil changed in your car where you're going to pay $30, $40.
Any maintenance is going to be $500 and above.
Hundreds of dollars.
Automatic.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, a lot of people don't think about. Most people, I know there are people that customize, but most people, they buy their car, they're done. That's it. But with a tractor, that's just the beginning.
Yes.
Because there's so many things you want.
No
because
doubt.
once you start using it, you start realizing, man, I could do this, I could do that. Boy, if I had one of those, well, I should buy that attachment. Oh, I could do this. This will save me a step. I need to spend $2,000 on this, $3,000 on that. It's so easy to spend money, and that's something we're going to talk about in the future. What attachments to look for, what they'll do, and will you really use them? Because there are things that I would like to buy, but I'm just knowing that I can justify them as far as if I would use them. It'd be nice to use them once in a while, and guys on my channel will tell me, you need to get this, you need to get that. Like, well, no, I don't need to. I would like to. And, their needs are different than mine, so just because they use it all the time doesn't mean I'm going to. And that's something to stay calm about, because a lot of times I just want to tell people, if it works for you, great, but it's not for me.
What do you call them? You-shooters?
The you-shooters. You should buy this. You should do that. The you-shooters. There's lots of them. Well, when you have
40,000 people
a day telling you what to do, that's the hardest part of having a channel, is just staying calm.
Yep.
Staying calm. So I was talking to Andrew Easton, we were talking about people telling me what to do. He says, you mean on YouTube people will tell you what to do? I was joking, of course. I said, everyone's got an opinion, just kind of like the...
And they let you know.
Oh, yes, they do. And I don't mind advice. I'm totally fine with
That's where we learn a lot.
Oh, yeah, and that's the biggest part of the channel that I get out of this is that guys will say, hey, Chris, I had that particular thing and I used it for a while, but then I bought this instead. It costs this much more and I'm really glad I got it. Take a look at them. That's a nice way, because what guys will generally do, not guys, it's usually guys, you should do this. You're the dumbest person I've ever seen on YouTube. Don't you know this? Well, no, I don't know. I've never done it before. This is new to me. So I don't know everything. I never claim to.
Okay, let me talk about one last thing here, maybe. 25 and under. 25 horsepower and under. And what I mean by that is 25 and under, you don't have all the pollution junk on the tractor. Anything above that, or it could be 26 horsepower, I forget, but it's like 25 or 26. Right. You don't have that. Our tractors, we'll be driving, we'll be working, and then all of a sudden, I'm losing power. I'm like, what broke?
Sounds like something broke.
Yeah, what broke? Oh, yeah, it's clanging and it's it's stinking. And it's not not your beans last time. Yeah. No. Anyways, it's really noisy and stinky, and then all of a sudden you see the red light flashing there, and it says DEF, regen.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, now I got to stop what I'm doing for 20 minutes and just sit there.
You know, though, I found if I just cranked up my RPMs and keep working, it'll burn it off.
It will, but you're slower. It does work slower. Yeah. And I figured, let it regen.
That's what they do. Yeah. And then if you go above, is it 73 or 5 horsepower? That's where you have to have DEF.
Then you have DEF, right.
Which is a whole nother thing that you gotta consider too. So
so those are just several items that we wanted to share.
And my advice to all of you is, even if you're not considering a Coyote, even if you're not considering a Branson, even if you're not considering a John Deere, even if you're not considering,
go look at them.
Go look at all of them. So yeah, look at every brand that you have within, what'd you say, like a 30-mile radius of where you are. I mean, look at Mahindras, look at New Hollands, look at
TYM, Rural King, all of them.
Yes, look at everything. You will learn a lot by looking and shopping. Don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. And be honest with the person. Don't come in and say, oh, thinking you know what you're talking about. Be stupid, because they'll help you
You'll
more.
get more information. They'll try to sell you a lot more, but you'll get a lot more information.
That's okay. And then,
go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing that we didn't talk about at all when you buy a tractor is, I don't know if you did it, but I bought insurance on mine.
That's one, yes. I did get insurance. And the reason I got insurance was the tractor is covered under my homeowner's policy when I'm on my property. The minute I put it on my trailer and take it out of my driveway, it is not covered.
Right.
So I had to get a rider on my insurance policy that would say I could bring it over to Chris's place and work, and if it gets stolen or we roll it over or whatever, it's covered. Great point to me.
I have 5 years, and it was like $700. 5 years, and it covers everything. So if it's stole, if I crash it, burn, hauling it, falls off the trailer, covered. And I told the guy when he first told me about it, I thought, well, he's trying to sell me. He says, everybody thinks they can find it cheaper. He says, go ahead, take a look. He said, I can tell you right up front, you're not going to find it cheaper. We buy it as a group because it's for the tractors, and it's a better rate than what you're going to find anywhere. And I did look, and it was like half as much. So,
that's good. I'll have to check because my insurance is coming up right now.
There you go. So, like I say, what we're talking about with tractors, it's always something.
Always something.
Get the brochure, study them, compare things, ask the questions, and if you don't know what to do, watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watched everything I could find on tractors. I just watched everything, and I didn't learn a lot all at once. It was just little bits here and there.
You pick it up. Yeah. I've had so many people contacted me and say, I've watched your video, and here are the points that you made that I'd never thought about, and thank you very much for helping me out on this, because it's a big investment.
Huge.
And there's a lot of stuff on there. Manufacturer or brand A may have one accessory that brand B doesn't have to. You have to make the decision on your part what's most important to you.
Right, and good luck. It's not an easy thing to do, but you'll be glad you did it once you got it. And that's all we have for today, folks. We'll be back tomorrow. No, not tomorrow.
No,
next week.
Next week.
Next week. We'll have another podcast thing. WOODCAST. That's it.
WOODCAST. Okay.
Next week. We'll do this again. Come on back. Good night, Irene.
Good night, Irene.